Hey, I'm Josh from Vacuums R Us and Sewing 2 in Colorado, and today I'm going to walk you through the steps that we take to locate and remove clogs in Shark vacuum cleaners. This video presents you with some basic troubleshooting steps that you can take at home to get your appliance working again. And that said, there's always risk involved with appliance repair. You could hurt yourself, you could damage the appliance worse, and hurt those around you for that matter. Follow these steps at your own risk. We're not liable for any damages that might occur as a result of following the steps in this video. I also encourage you to watch the video in its entirety prior to starting to be sure that you can follow through with all of the required steps to complete the repair. Now, this is the process that we take when somebody brings a machine into us and we're diagnosing it on the bench. And I'm going to show you what we actually do in store, so maybe it could save you a trip. So first, I'm going to show you how the air travels through the machine and kind of the pathway that we're going to be following through the machine to track down the clog. And as we go, I'll show you indications that the clog is in a particular area and how you can use some little tricks to get the clog out, right? So on all Shark vacuum cleaners that I'm aware of, all upright Shark vacuum cleaners, the airflow path is very similar. So the air is going to go in down here. When you're cleaning your carpet, you've got a brush chamber down here. And so you have airflow is going to come in here. The action of the brush will kind of kick up dirt on the flooring, and then the air will suck in all of the dirt and dirty air that's kind of been created by kicking up here. It will then go up the back of the machine through the wand, through this hole, which is typically metal or plastic. So the debris will go up through the wand, and then it'll go all the way through the hose, and then it'll go into this canister where it will turn around and do some magic. At that point, it will go through one of your filters, your first, typically two filters on Shark. There's usually a thicker filter and a thinner filter. It'll blow through that. It'll clean the air to some degree, and then it'll blow that partially cleaned air over and into and throughout your motor, and then it will exit in the front of the machine here. That's why you might notice that when you're using your Shark, you can see kind of things blowing around here because the air exits out of the front through the final quasi-HEPA filter. So the process of finding the clog is you kind of chase down through the air passages, and there's a methodology and a kind of a sequence that we use when a customer brings a machine in to diagnose where that clog might be. So when we're doing an unclog, when a machine comes in, we typically start kind of in the center where the hose is going into the body, and then we chase the clog in two different directions. Now we'll listen for the clog. We can hear a motor that's being suffocated. We can actually hear the clog when we turn the machine on, and then we know that we've got that issue. And then it's a matter of chasing down where it is. So I plug the machine in, I'm going to turn it on, and this machine is not clogged. I'm going to hold the mic kind of closer to it, and you might be able to hear some of the sound difference between clogged and unclogged. I'm going to put my hand over this to kind of artificially create a clog. Now, I'm not sure how well the mic picks it up, but this particular model of Shark actually has a release valve on it. So when the machine gets clogged, it'll very quickly realize it's clogged, and there's a release valve that will open up to allow air to flow directly into the motor. The way these machines work is the air that gets sucked into the machine that blows over the motor is what actually cools the motor as well. So when you get a clog, your machine will overheat because enough air isn't going over the motor to cool it. So some machines will have a release valve. In this case, the release valve on this Shark is right here. And you could hear when I clogged it, you would get a very high pitch just for half a second, and then there's a very slight tick as the release valve will engage, and then the pitch of the motor will go back down again after that release valve is engaged. It makes it a little bit more difficult to troubleshoot these. And a lot of people are confused about why this release valve exists. I've even seen people actually duct tape the release valve shut when they had a clog instead of bringing it in for service. So anyway, we're going to start chasing down the clog now. So say I've turned it on. I hear I have a clog somewhere. I'm going to start in the middle of the machine right here where the hose goes in. So I will turn the machine on and unplug the hose. And I'll feel here to feel if I have airflow. And I'll also listen to hear if I have that suffocating sound when I remove the hose. If I have that suffocating sound with the hose connected, and when I disconnect the hose, I can hear that sound go away and I feel that I have airflow, I now know that the clog is somewhere in the hose, the wand, or the head. It's not in the canister or the motor compartment or the filters. It's somewhere beyond there. Because again, our airflow goes sort of up like this, around through the canister and out again. If I disconnect right here, I've removed all of this stuff, the hose, the wand, and the head. And if all of a sudden I hear that it's not clogged and I feel that I have airflow there, I now know that my clog is somewhere in hose, wand, or head. So let's say I removed that though, and I didn't hear a change in the motor pitch. And I hear that it's still clogged and I'm not feeling airflow going into this canister right here. I now know that my clog is somewhere in my canister, filters, or motor. So what I'll do here is I'll remove the canister. And the filters on Sharks are always right here. And you can see in this case, these filters are pretty nasty and they need to be replaced, but they are clean. So that's not our issue. If you pop it open and you see this filter is full of fine dust, well, that's your problem right there. You need to replace your filters. They are quasi-washable, but if you've gotten to the point where you have a clog, you can audibly hear it. Those filters are so shot, you need to replace them anyway. They're full of fine powder. So if I remove this, I can now turn it on again with this canister off. And I've removed the canister from the equation, and that bypasses the hose and wand and everything. I can turn it on. If the motor sounds fine at that point, I know that my clog at this point is inside of the cyclone somewhere. And on these Shark cyclones, the top will open and the bottom will open as well. You know that. I'm not going to open the bottom because there's dirt in it. Oftentimes you'll open the top and you'll see that there's this weird screen in here that has a whole bunch of clogs inside of it. And that may very well be the source of your issue right there. If you've gotten this far, your filters are fine, but when you turn the machine on, you can still hear that muffled sound. You've got some issues either with your final filter, which is usually on the front here. It's very unlikely. If that is your actual issue, that your final filter is completely blasted, all of the debris that's in there has already made it all the way blasted through your motor. The machine's probably on death's doorstep as it is, if we've gotten that far. But if we've gotten this far, you turn it on, it still sounds muffled, you most likely have a motor issue. It's pretty much the end of the game. I'm going to put this back together, and we're going to go back to the center here. Now let's say I turn the machine on, I remove the hose, and I hear that my motor is no longer suffocating. And that tells me that my clog is somewhere in my hose, wand, or head. So I'm going to continue down the trail here to locate the clog. I'll turn the machine on, and I'll disconnect my hose up here at the wand, and I'll listen to see if the pitch of my motor changes. And I'll check here to see if I have suction. So again, you'll hear if you have a clog in your wand and you remove this, you'll have good suction. Now the hose is a really common place to get a clog, really common. If you remove the hose from the wand and you can still hear a clog, but if you removed it down here and the clog is gone, you now know that your clog is in this hose, which is very, very common. So these can be tough to unclog because you have this kind of sharp curve right here that's hard to get through. You can look into it, you can't really see light because you have this sharp curve going on here. Same thing with this type of hose. You can see it's got this curve. If you look through it, you don't see any light. And commonly that is where your clogs reside. They're right there, or maybe they're right there on the bend. But commonly they'll make it into the center of the hose and they'll kind of stick there as well. So a trick that works 90% of the time on unclogging hoses is to remove the hose in its entirety the way I have it right now, and then to reverse it. So you got to figure, if you've got a clog in your hose, this is how you're using your machine. You're sucking dirt in right here, right? So your clog came in this direction and then lodged somewhere in here. If you suck in the opposite direction, go the opposite way, disconnect your hose, and then just kind of stick this in here and kind of jam it in. It doesn't fit perfectly. It's not intended to go in there. But you can turn the machine on, and now you'll kind of be sucking the opposite direction. And if you take the hose and kind of stretch it out, you can often massage the clog, and you'll sometimes feel it. If it's in the hose here, you'll actually feel the blockage in here. You'll feel a stiff part, and then you can kind of stretch it, and you'll start to hear it. You'll start to hear it break loose and then shoot into your canister. Now, typically, if it's a large clog, it'll lodge up here in the canister, and it'll reclog itself up here, but that's a lot easier to access. So one thing I would dissuade you from doing is taking a coat hanger and shoving it in here. It's super tempting. It's flexible. You can shove it in there. The problem is the ends are sharp, and I can't tell you how many people I've had come in here with a coat hanger shoved in here. They were poked the side of their hose, and now you need a new hose because you have to replace the entire hose if you puncture the side of a hose. And more often than not, Shark being what they are, they don't even sell the replacement hose, or it's magically out of stock for 5 years. So now you have to buy a new vacuum cleaner. All right, so let's say the clog is not in the hose. We have disconnected the hose from the wand. The machine no longer sounds suffocated. So we know there's no clog in here. The clog is either in the wand or in the head. If it's in the wand, that's the easiest place, and also the least likely place it'll be, because, you know, if it was easy. So all you have to do then is remove the wand and look through it. If you see a blockage, this is something that's safe to just shove a stick down and you can just whack it out. Sometimes you can go kind of like this and you can get it to dislodge itself, but that's super easy to find, right? If it's in there. One thing I will caution you about, and this is a kind of funny one. So cough syrup, bottle caps, you know, the little clear bottle caps that are measuring cups. So you take cough syrup, NyQuil, Dayquil, whatever. They're the perfect size to lodge into these, and they're clear. So you'll look through it, and you'll look right through the cap. You won't see it because it's clear, but it's fully obstructed. That is actually a common issue. We have people come in, they're like, I looked everywhere, I can't find anything. We'll narrow it down to the wand. We'll look through the wand and we can see right through it. But we know, because we can hear the blockage, we know there's a blockage in the wand, and it's a medicine cap. So let's say it's not in the wand. That's going to bring us down to the head. Now, on most Shark vacuum cleaners, not all, but about 95% of Shark vacuum cleaners, the entire upper body will disconnect from the head. Now, there's multiple different places that the unlock will be on this. There's a little lock right here, but they're all over the place. Some of these machines, the unlock is actually up here to unlock the body from the head. There are a few Shark models, very few, but there are a couple of Shark models that do not disconnect from the base. But if yours does, disconnect it, because it's way easier to find the clog if it does. So recline it so that it's straight like that. And at that point, you can look through, and the brush is kind of blocking that, but you can still see a little bit of light through there unless you have a blockage. And oftentimes, because this is pretty short right here, oftentimes you'll look in and you'll see the blockage right there, right? If you have a blockage in there, we have forceps that we use for clog removal. You probably don't have those. Most people will have needle nose pliers though, which will help. That'll get you a little bit of grip. You can get in there a little ways. You can also, at this point, if you've gotten that far in, you can do the same thing conceptually that I showed before, where you have a hose and you know, if you have a clog in your head, you know the clog went in from down here. So if you pull back out again, you might be able to unclog it in that direction. Now, a lot of Sharks have an unclog door right here, which is a testament to how frequently they clog. And you can open it up, and then you have access to that hose right there. If you have that, oftentimes you can use your vacuum cleaner and suck the clog out that direction. So again, the same concept. If the clog went in this way, you can suck it out that way. And that's the trick to get it out down there. But unclogging the base isn't terrible, because you don't have a long area to clog. It's pretty short. It's a fairly straight shot. The one thing I will caution you about, though, is that there is a rubberized flexible hose down here. So again, if you get the coat hanger out and start shoving it in there, you could puncture the side of the hose. And again, if you do that, you're probably looking at a new vacuum cleaner. Those are all of the places that you could potentially have a clog in your Shark. If you didn't find it by following those steps, start over again. It's in there. So if this is your first time, maybe you need to watch the video again, just go through the steps again. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that'll keep one more Shark out of the dumpster. Hopefully that will get you some of your sanity back, and you can finish cleaning before the relatives or in-laws or friends that you're trying to impress come over to your house. Next time, don't buy a Shark.